American actor, but also
Maybe. Yeah. You marked up. And then the others walked in too.
Edward Torres.
And then, what's her name? Do you remember Robin? Robin from Boy Scouts?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Did she want to say
Morning, how are you?
Go ahead and introduce my partner here today. Again, thank you for joining us. To my right is Jenna Rose Lee, our MC for today's program. Jenna Rose was born and raised on the west side of Modesto. Her family raises registered wholesale cattle and farms almonds, walnuts, and peaches. She attended Modesto High School, Modesto Junior College, and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where she obtained her agricultural communications degree. After graduation, Jenna began making a marketing career at Mission Produce in Southern California, the largest avocado grower, packer, and sugar in the world. It's there where she found a love of marketing and a love of the produce industry. Today, Jenna works in grocery retail as a marketing manager for the Save Mart Company's everyday issues, using her marketing skills to promote fresh, local foods. Jenna loves to continue learning and is a servant in various capacities. Earlier this year, she received her MBA from CSU, Channel Islands, and is County Young Farmers and Ranchers Club. Let's give her a warm welcome, please.
Thank you, Trish. Welcome everyone to the 62nd Annual Modesto Chamber of Commerce Harvest Luncheon. This is a hallmark event for the Modesto Chamber of Commerce, and it is an honor to serve as your MC for today's program. Thank you all for being here. Today we're gathered to celebrate the bounty of Stanislaus County and the young generation of students who will carry on this important responsibility of farming, teaching, leading, researching, lobbying, and more, all in the name of agriculture. I think we can all agree that feeding the world is a pretty noble career, yeah? Here are a few stats that stand out to me from the 2023 crop report. On a micro scale, just looking at Stanislaus County, 91% of farms are family farms. We have more than 3,400 farms in Stanislaus County and produce over 150 different commodities. The top 10 commodities that we produce are almonds, milk, poultry, cattle, fruit and nut nursery stock, silage, tomatoes, almond pollination, walnuts, and eggs. Then on a macro scale, California has single-handedly produced almost 75% of the nation's annual production of fruit and nuts. Our state's ag industry generates $100 billion in economic activity each year, and we ship out more than $20 billion of food, feed, and fiber overseas, accounting for 16% of total U.S. agricultural exports. All this to say, we are an agricultural powerhouse, not just our state, but our county. Today we celebrate not only this year's harvest, but also the MJC students studying agriculture, recognizing the future impact they will have on this industry. Each one of us here today has an impact on the agriculture industry. As leaders and influencers, we must continue to invest in our future and support the youth. By supporting the Harvest Luncheon, you are doing just that, and we thank you. Give yourself a round of applause.
Thank you, Jenna. On behalf of the Modesto Chamber of Commerce, I too would like to welcome you to our 62nd Annual Harvest Luncheon. Can we please take a moment to acknowledge the dignitaries we have in attendance? Tina Rocha, Stanislaus County Assistant Executive Officer. Please wave if you're already in the room and seated. Linda Pinfold, Agricultural Conditions Sealer of Weights and Measures. And Vito Chiesa, Stanislaus County District 2 Supervisor. Thank you for joining us. And do we have any representatives from the Modesto Junior College Foundation? There she is. Thank you, Emily. Nice to have you guys. And John, nice to have you as well. May I ask that all Chamber Board members in attendance please stand to be recognized. There are 3 or 4 already here. And may I also ask that we give special appreciation and gratitude representing our scholarship namesakes. Please welcome Bill and Trina Berryhill and the Voss family who are joining us today. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Here in the Valley, we know that agriculture is the backbone of our region. It is an international commercial industry to be reckoned with. The tradition of this annual event is a testimony to the importance that agriculture plays in our local community. For the last 62 years, the Modesto Chamber of Commerce and our Agriculture Committee has understood and appreciated our farms, our ranches, our food processors, and all the various byproduct businesses that exist here in our region because of the agriculture sector. Not only does it bring food to our tables near and far, it provides jobs and careers with longevity here in our valley, whether new to the industry or over many generations. Harvest Luncheon is one way the Modesto Chamber of Commerce supports local education, in this case, Modesto Junior College agriculture students and programs. Modesto Junior College's renowned agriculture program has trained future farmers and agribusiness leaders for over 90 years. For decades, many of these MJC graduates have been recipients of the Voss Berryhill Scholarship Fund, which is why we are here today. John?
At this time, please join me in welcoming Noah Wells from MID, who will be leading us in the invocation, and Stephanie Ortiz from West Modesto Collaborative, who will follow with the singing of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome Noah and Stephanie.
The Bible says in Psalms chapter 104, verse 14, that you cause the grass to grow for the livestock and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth food from the earth. Right? So it's all from God. Every blessing, every good thing in our lives, it comes from God. And so however you feel comfortable, let's pray. Go ahead and bow your heads. God, we are grateful and thankful for the privilege to be able to be here, knowing that you are the author and the finisher of our faith, that you entrust us, you put things in our hands. We plant in faith, we sow in faith, and you bring the harvest. You make it to increase. And we know that that is not just for us to make us prosperous, but it's for our families, for our communities, for our cities, for our works, wherever it is that we are, to make a difference. Not just for us, but that it flows through us. God, we give you all the glory, all the honor, that you bless our lands. You sustain, Lord. You keep us. You preserve us, Lord. You bring us prosperity. You bring us wealth. You enrich, Lord. I pray that you would bless each student, each organization, each government official that's here, Lord. Each person that's elected or working here, God, bless us. Bless the work of our hands. Bless everything that we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It is now time to enjoy our meal. We have 3 buffet lines waiting for you in the back with student and committee volunteers ready to assist you. Tables on my right. Please head to the buffet line towards the pavilion entrance lobby. As the tables to the right get in line, the next rows can self-dismiss and enjoy your lunch. Thank you. have our lunch break. I'm sorry, a couple of them are talking. Getting ready to announce you. Okay, so if I could just take a moment and acknowledge Congressman Duarte's rep, Gavin Klein is in the room with us. Thank you so much, Gavin. Senator Alvarado Bill has joined us. We'd like to wave and just thank everyone. Thank you for joining us. Supervisor Terry Whitbro, I saw him enter the room. Is he there right here with us? Thank you, sir. And Representative Patrick Berta with Supervisor Graywall's office is here as well. And City Councilman Jeremiah Williams has joined us. He can wave over there. Thank you. We really appreciate the support and the engagement we have with our local officials at all levels, and I'm really appreciative of you joining us today. So thank you. Big round of applause.
Welcome back, everyone. Please continue to enjoy your lunch while we move on with today's program. We'll start this afternoon by hearing from two current students involved with the AG program here at MJC. We have Anna Finbris and Matthew Bowman. Our first speaker is Ms. Anna.
Thank you, and thank you to the individuals that prepared this meal. It's very delicious. So my name is Anna Finbris, and I attended MJC and I graduated. My major is agricultural business, and I transferred to CSU Statistics. It is an honor to stand here before you today at MJC, a place where the seeds of knowledge are sown and the future of agriculture is cultivated. I would first like to tell you about my agricultural background. I grew up in Livingston, and that's, sweet potato country, and that's where my love for ag kind of came from. Thanks to my family that nurtured that love for ag, I'm standing right here. My mother worked in the sweet potato field, also my grandmother and my two uncles. But it was my Uncle Gabe Estrada that showed me that there's more than just the fields and that we can find success in agriculture. Throughout the years, I worked numerous jobs. I also did work for A.D. Thomas at the sweet potato company. And it was there where my love for ag really grew. Learning the farm-to-table process fascinated me, and I knew that I wanted to be part of it. Later on in life, I would join a well-known poultry company. Some of you guys know this one, Foster Farms. I joined the quality control department, and that was it. That was my jam. That was my peanut butter and jelly. That's where I fell in love. And I love working for them, and that's where I learned that ag isn't just fields or crops. It's also, poultry, pork, it's meat processing. It's a lot bigger sector than we think it is. But I became stagnant there. Unfortunately, I've learned everything that I needed to learn. I have dealt with everything that I needed to deal with. I've seen it all. And I knew that that was the opportunity to further my career in this company. And I was looking to my supervisors and thinking to myself, I want to be one of these supervisors. And that's how you know you're a good boss. When your employees want to be like you, that's how you know. And I had great supervisors, very supportive supervisors that said, do it, we'll go, we'll work with you. And they did. And one day, just casually mentioned it to my best friend. I was like, I'm thinking about going back to school. And she called my bluff. She put the laptop in front of me and she said, do it. Do it in front of me and do it now. So I joined. I signed up for Modesto Junior College. And I knew that I wanted to be an agricultural major. So I started in fall of 2022, and I was really nervous, really intimidated. The first day, that's all it lasted. Being an ag major, being in the ag department for Modesto, you feel welcome. You feel like you belong. Your professors are very involved. They help you. They want you to succeed. They love you. They hate to see you go, but they know that you can do better. Not saying that, this is the best, but there's an amazing program here set up, and the students that are part of this have such a solid, paved way for them, and it wouldn't be possible without the professors. My journey here was incredible. It wasn't easy because I worked full-time, and I went to school full-time, and I was always tired, but that's how good of a program they have. Your students get up and they go to class. And there were times where the class was really early, but I would get up, be in that traffic in Modesto, learning about myself. I hate this traffic, And yeah, you learn a lot about yourself when you're in traffic in 99. But like I said, we are set up for success. This is a great program. They have their own counselor, Tina. She made sure that I was on the right track, that I followed my educational plan to a T. And before I knew it, I was graduating. I've never had 2 years go by so fast. I told Rosa one day, right before graduation, I told Rosa, I believed, and now 3 years went by and I'm graduating. She goes, yeah, I'll do that to you. And that's because we have very capable individuals who help me transfer. We have a great transfer center for all the students that we have here, future students that we have here. Please go visit the transfer center. They will help you as well. They will tell you how to do it, how to get there. It is a fact. I don't remember where I read it, but it's a fact. Students that go to a community college first are most likely to succeed when they transfer to a CSU or a UC. And I'm telling you with all the confidence in the world that coming here to Modesto Junior College prepared me for CSU classes. I hit the ground running over there, and that is because I was ready here. So, like I said, I graduated this year, and I was part of the biggest graduating class of Modesto Junior College. We were 839 graduates, and a lot of them were ag majors. So we are graduating, we're not staying here, we're off to bigger and better things. And I've learned many lessons from being here, from our professors. But one lesson that I really took away with me is that agriculture is more than just an industry. It is the backbone of our society. It feeds our families, fuels our economy, and nurtures our planet. As a student and future leader in this field, I have the unique opportunity to drive innovation and create solutions to some of the world's most present challenges. And that is, how do we keep feeding people in a population that just keeps growing and growing and growing? We're running out of farmland. As I and other ag students continue our studies and embark on our careers, we remember that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We are stewards of the land, guardians of the food supply, and pioneers of progress. Our work has the power to change the world. Modesto Junior College has an amazing agricultural program. They set up their students for success. The future is bright for California ag, and there's no denying that Modesto Junior College and its professors play an important role. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Our next speaker is Mr. Matthew Bowman.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Bowman. I am a freshman here at Modesto Community College. Today, I would like to speak a little bit on myself and tell you a little bit about my past. I grew up in a family that never knew agriculture. This is harder because all my friends grew up either having cattle, having lambs, having goats, having pigs, you name it, they had it. This is something that I had to figure out myself how to grow and lead in my FFA for these groups. I luckily went to a high school that had an FFA program, one of the largest ones in Sacramento, where I am from. With those teachers there, shout out to Ms. Forrester and Ms. Chang, with those teachers, they taught me what it meant to be in agriculture. I started showing goats as a freshman at Pleasant High School. This not only taught me how to feed a goat, but also how to show a goat. This is something that I took to heart, and I was one of the hardest workers in the unit I've been at. I've been told multiple times. And this was hard because, at least in my generation, that was where COVID struck everybody. Schools shut down, businesses shut down, and one thing that prevailed was agriculture at that time. We had Sacramento County Fair on a dirt lot rather than in a massive college or arena that some of you guys might know. This is something I really took to heart because it meant that there was more to just showing, but there was a whole community around that. It was a community that I wanted to be involved in for the rest of my life. That's why I'm standing here today. After my freshman year showing goats, I decided to show yet another goat and even pursue passion in showing lambs, cattle, local 4-H club. This is something where I met lifelong friends and lifelong leaders that have led me to where I'm standing here today at Modesto Junior College. This is something I really take to heart once again because it teaches you that there's more to life rather than just sitting on a couch playing video games, and that's what I did a lot of the time. Now I'm waking up at 6:30 feeding the 50 head of sheep out there because I am on the West Campus internship. This is something that is mind-boggling to me because it's coming from a family that agriculture wasn't even a thing all the way to here today. Where we are right now in the East Pavilion, this is where my dreams and my desires came to be when I was a junior in high school. I came here to participate in one of the livestock shows that they hold here called Showdown in Motown. This was one of my first jackpots and it was something that I fell in love with immediately. This last year as a senior, I went to a total of 6 jackpots and it allowed me to pursue the future and the culture around showing livestock specifically. Personally, I would like to raise show lambs. That is something that a lot of people, especially at my age, would not be saying today, but I know that it is not only helpful for the whole community as a whole, but also for those little ones that we raise in agriculture, because at the end of the day, it's not what you're showing, it's what the kids that you're raising. And I think that's something that a lot of young people and even older people need to realize, that the agriculture industry, especially the show industry itself, needs to push rather than we're building kids, we're not building animals. And so I stand in front of you guys today saying that it is possible to come from nothing basically all the way to where I am today. It is something that has taken a lot of work and a lot of dedication, but I'm here today in front of you to say that you can do it, and if you put in the work, it will happen. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing with us. You are a true testament to the MJC Ag program. What a special one it is, so thank you both. I'm very excited about today's keynote speaker. He is a professor and air quality specialist at UC Davis in the Department of Animal Science. He's also the director of the CLEAR Center at Davis. CLEAR standing for Clarity and Leadership for Environmental Awareness and Research. As such, he is passionate about sharing his knowledge and research domestically and internationally with students, scientists, farmers, ranchers, policymakers, and so on. His mission is to bring clarity to the conversation around animal agriculture and its environmental impact, a particularly relevant topic today. He earned his Master of Science in Animal Science and Agricultural Engineering from the University of Leipzig, Germany, and his PhD in Animal Science from Texas Tech University. Today, he will share his valuable insights on understanding and mitigating air emissions from livestock operations and the challenges of sustainable food production for a growing population. I believe his perspective will offer you a fresh look at this important issue. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Frank Midlerner to the podium.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Congratulations to our student speakers. Great job. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today and talk to an agricultural audience about a topic that many of you are well familiar with, or at least hear about all the time. Namely the question whether we can eat ourselves out of climate change. Eat ourselves out of climate change. There are many people who say, what we just ate, this delicious food there, is not what we should eat. You know this, right? There are many people who say we should not eat animal source foods because they have a great impact on our climate. Now that is what I study. I've been a professor at UC Davis for 22 years, and my area of research is the impact animal agriculture has on air quality and on climate, and that's what I'll talk to you about today. So let's see if I can get my clicker to work. There you go. Can you guys see this? So what do we see here? We see a satellite image of California. And what you see there, right between the Sierra Nevada on the east and the coastal mountain range on the west side, that milky area there, that's of course our Great Central Valley. Now, our Great Central Valley is the nation's, probably the world's, most productive agricultural area. 50% of all fruits and vegetables are grown there. 90% of all nuts. Some people actually call us being nuts, but I resent that. And of course we have 20% of the US dairy population in this valley. But what we also have, and that's that white milky stuff, is we have bad air quality. Okay, that's undeniable. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why I was hired 22 years ago as an air quality specialist in an animal science department. At first everybody thought it was a joke, but this is studying cow farts. But then they stopped laughing about it because they thought, wow, okay, there's a lot of pressure on agricultural producers for odors, for dust, for flies, for gases like ammonia, and more recently, greenhouse gases such as methane. We've all heard about that. So my role is to identify what's real, what's not, with respect to impact of livestock on climate and air quality, and also find mitigation, find ways to reduce emissions where they occur. This slide is one of my favorites. It shows a fence line. On the left side of the fence, you see a California dairy in the 4th generation. 1,000 happy California cows on that dairy. And on the right side of the fence, 1,000 unhappy California residents. They had just moved there recently, right before that photo was taken. Can you see this okay? I know it's a little challenging from a light perspective. Why did these people move right next to that dairy, you think? Why? I mean, if you move right next to a dairy with 1,000 cows, wouldn't you expect to smell that thing or to have some dust or some flies? They moved there because the land was relatively cheap. That's why they moved there. And what do you think was the first thing they did after they moved there? No, complaining is for losers. They sued that neighborhood. In California, you sue each other, right? And that is what I'm confronted with a lot, where people oftentimes from urban areas sue people who have been at these rural locations in production for decades, for generations. And when this comes to court, who do you think wins? The left or the right side of the fence? The right side of the fence wins those normally because these are nuisance lawsuits where a farmer is sued because their operation has dust, odors, flies associated with it, impeding the right for enjoyment of those people on the right side of the fence. That's unfortunately the way it is. What do you think has a great environmental footprint, the left or the right side of the fence? Well, why do you say the right? Because you're an agricultural audience? You're right. Why is it the right? Because on the left side there are 1,000 cows. On the right side there are 1,000 households with 2,000 cars, lawnmowers, leaf blowers, people flying around all over the place. The carbon footprint, the environmental footprint of the right side of the fence is 70 times greater than that on the left side. That just is a little warm-up, okay? This has nothing to do with what I'm about to say here, but I just wanted you to know that I'm with you, and I'm here because I think agriculture has a right to be here, we have a future here, but we need to make some changes. Particularly changes around how we tell our story. Because if there's one thing that we in agriculture are chronically bad at, it is communication, communication, communication. And that's the reason why I'm telling you guys, way to go. What you see on this slide here is the sun, that orange ball there, that's the sun radiating down solar beams to the surface of the earth. I'm now talking about greenhouse gases and climate change. But don't think just because you're politically against that topic, don't think that it doesn't affect us. It does affect us. We do have a change in climate. But how is it to be explained? What you see here is the sun radiating down solar beams to the surface of the earth, and with that solar radiation comes heat. Normally that solar radiation would be reflected back into space if there weren't the so-called greenhouse gases, gases such as methane, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide. And while most climate scientists would say there is no doubt that the most important greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide, CO2, our special friends, as I call them, and now I'm being facetious, people who don't like us in agriculture very much say, no, it's methane that we need to concentrate on. And methane indeed is a potent greenhouse gas. But there is much more to that nuance around methane than meets the eye. And I will explain that to you in a few minutes. This here is a depiction of what you oftentimes see in the media. These are all the sectors of society and how they contribute to greenhouse gases that cause global warming. The red area are all these sectors, including transportation sector, buildings, power plants and so on, that burn what we call fossil fuels, such as oil, coal and gas. And when we burn fossil fuels, we produce CO2, it goes into the air, and that's a greenhouse gas. What you see in green there is agriculture and forestry. You can see globally that's also a good chunk. The United Nations Food and Agriculture assigns approximately 11% of global greenhouse gases, 11% of global greenhouse gases to animal agriculture. The activists in this country here take that global number and apply it to the US, and that's wrong. Because in the US it's not 11%. In the US the contribution of all of animal agriculture combined to total greenhouse gases is 4%. That's the number to remember. And that 4% is caused by beef, by dairy, by swine, by poultry, by feed production and so on. 4%. And that number comes from the Environmental Protection Agency. You see it here, all the sectors, and in green you see total agriculture. Total agriculture is 10, but that includes animal and plant agriculture. Animal agriculture alone is how much? 4%. This slide here shows the so-called global warming potential, the difference between three gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, and how different they are with respect to how much heat they can trap. You can see here methane traps heat 28 times more per molecule than CO2. And nitrous oxide 265 times more than CO2. My students at UC Davis wonder what that means, so I tell them, imagine we were to have 3 glasses, same volume. One of you drinks beer, one of you drinks wine, and one of you drinks vodka. Who will get drunk first? They all understand that. Different potency of alcoholic beverages, different potency of greenhouse gases, okay? So methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and that's why we have to pay attention to it. But it's very different from the others. Why? Because methane is not just produced, but methane is also naturally destroyed. On this slide here you see, on the left side, various sources of methane, including fossil fuel production, agricultural waste, burning swamps and so on. All of these sources combined make up this number here globally, approximately 560 teragrams. And that's where the mass media reports, but ends reporting, saying we are producing so much methane globally, that's why we need to strongly reduce it. What they don't say is that methane is not just produced, but also destroyed. On the right side of this slide, you see that there are sinks, and these sinks amount to almost 550 teragrams. In other words, 560 are produced, but 550 are destroyed. And that leaves the balance, here in red, of 10 teragrams of this gas globally. That's the number, ladies and gentlemen, that we really have to worry about and further reduce. But that is not communicated with the current mass media to the populations, and it should. Remember, as a take-home message, CO2, nitrous oxide are only produced, but methane is both produced and it is naturally destroyed. And what destroys methane is a natural process which has a complicated name, hydroxyl oxidation. Imagine this being a methane molecule, this being a hydroxyl radical. This radical destroys the methane after 10 years and then it's gone. But within this 10 years, it's still a potent greenhouse gas. But the fact that it's destroyed after 10 years means that methane has a short lifespan of 10 to 12 years. CO2 on the other side has a lifespan of 1,000 years. Every time we burn oil, coal, and gas, we produce CO2, and that stays in the atmosphere forever. It's less potent per molecule, but it stays there forever. This is as if we were to drink a beer, but we can't metabolize it. It just lingers around and builds up and keeps us drunk forever. Thank God that doesn't happen, but just imagine that. So, methane is not just produced, methane is also destroyed. So how does CO2 warm our planet versus how does methane warm the planet? I will use two analogies, bathtub analogies, for how these gases warm our planet. Imagine a bathtub that only has a faucet but no drain. That's the analogy for CO2. That gas is only produced but not destroyed. So the bathtub analogy is a bathtub that only has a faucet, but it has no drain. Whether we turn that faucet on low, medium, or high, what happens to the water levels? They go up. They never go down. There's no drain. And this is what it looks like. This is the CO2 analogy here. If you turn that faucet on high, or low, or normal, the water levels will always go up because there is no destruction of this gas. There's no drain. But let's now contrast that to CH4, methane. There, the gas is not just produced but also destroyed. The analogy would be, you have a faucet, but you also have a drain. If you turn that faucet on normal, then an equal amount of water that goes in is let go out of through the drain. And here, this is what it looks like. That's what it looks like. If you turn that faucet on normal and the drain is open, the water level stays stable. If you turn that faucet on low, but the drain is open, then what happens to the water levels? They go down. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very important. If we in agriculture manage to reduce methane, we can reduce warming. And we are the only sector of society that can do that. Because with CO2, with nitrous oxide, it doesn't work that way. But with methane, it does. And we are the only major sector of methane. That is why I'm telling people in agriculture, do not be afraid of methane. You don't have to. Let's learn how to mitigate that thing, that beast, because once we do, not just do we become less of a problem, but we become part of a solution. Here in California, for example, our dairy industry must, by law, reduce methane by 40%, 40. It's a huge reduction. If that were to succeed, our dairy industry would contribute to a cooling effect, would reduce warming. Imagine that. Imagine what a change of narrative that would be. You can imagine the headlines, right? Well, not that our media would ever report on that, but let's dream on. So if you have increasing CO2 and methane, the warming from both gases goes up, from CO2 even more so because it is cumulative, it doesn't go away. If you keep both methane and CO2 stable, then the warming from the methane stays stable as well, because this gas is not just produced but also destroyed. But even a stable CO2 source will lead to increasing warming. But now comes what's important. What happens if we manage to reduce CO2 from whatever source, let's say a power plant, and eventually we shut that power plant down and no longer produce CO2 with it? And what happens if we reduce methane? And let's contrast that. So if we reduce CO2, you see it here on the top. If we reduce CO2, look what happens in the red to the associated warming. Even though the CO2 goes down, the warming still goes up, all the way up until the point when you stop burning that fossil fuel, and then you are plateauing with the warming. But look what happens when we reduce methane. When we reduce methane, we immediately reduce warming. And that is why we should never just compare CO2 to methane. They are totally different beasts. They have a completely different behavior on our planet. When I give this talk, most people throughout the world, and I mean throughout the world because I speak publicly throughout the world, understand that and appreciate the difference between those. This is not just a little nuance, the totally different beast we are dealing with here. But the people who are anti-livestock hate this message. They want nothing to do with efforts to reduce methane. They want the animal agriculture sector to get out, period. That's that simple. And I see it over and over and over again. I don't think there's anybody in this state who's criticized more than the person standing in front of you, whose job it is to reduce greenhouse gases and other criteria pollutants, because those people who are critical of animal agriculture don't want to hear it. But people in agriculture need to hear it. And they need to stop having their head in the sand saying, I don't believe in global warming, I don't believe in climate change, and if it were to happen, my cows have nothing to do with it. They do have something to do with it, not as much as often portrayed, but they do have something to do with it. But if we manage to reduce it, we can have a very positive change in narrative, and you can see it here. So my title slide was the 2050 challenge. Can we eat our way out of climate change? What this slide shows is the human population. When I was a little boy, we had 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion. Today we have 8. And by the time I'm an old man, we will have 9.5 billion people in the world. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, throughout my lifetime, human population on this planet will have tripled. I repeat it because it's that important. Throughout my lifetime, human population on this planet will have tripled. But the natural resources to feed these people will not have tripled. We will not have 3 times more farming land, 3 times more water, 3 times more fertilizer, and so on, by the time we all compare to when we were young. But if we are lucky, we might have similar amounts of natural resources. What does that mean? If we have 3 times more mouths to feed, but we don't have 3 times more resources. What does that mean? Think about that for a second. It means we have to become a whole lot more efficient. I think that's very clear to everybody in the room here. So the human population increase in Southeast Asia will be over 40%, and Africa will be 50% by 2050. The Americas will be relatively stable, and Europe will slightly shrink population-wise. But particularly Asia and Africa will increase significantly. This is one of my favorite slides. It shows the world from space, and a circle over Southeast Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, that circle contains more people in it than the rest of the world combined. That's the hot spot. That's where food security really plays a major role. And that's one of the regions that will be fed through resources grown in this very part of the world. If they allow us to continue doing what we're doing, and doing so well, we are a very important part of feeding the world, in this very part of the world. This year, while we have 3 times more people through my lifetime in the world, this is one of the shortcomings. What it shows is the total amount of cropland in the world. This is how much land we have in the world to grow crops for people. And whether we have 3, 6, 9 or more billion people in the world, we cannot increase that amount of cropland. And now I show you something that I think many or most of you will not forget. A very simple demonstration as to how great the challenge is we have ahead of us. Imagine this sheet of paper here being what you see there, the entire world. A regular sheet of paper, the entire world. I will now fold this sheet of paper and I will fold it twice until it is roughly the size of a postcard. And what you see now is the total amount of land in the world. The difference between the large sheet and this is water and ice. This is all the land in the world. This here is my business card. And the equivalent amount of land of my business card is the total amount of agricultural land in the world. So this is all land in the world. This is all agricultural land in the world. Please remember that. I now take this business card and I fold it into one piece that's 1/3 and one that's 2/3, and then I rip my whole business card into pieces. The whole business card is all agricultural land. The 2/3 piece is what we call the marginal land in the world. It's called marginal land, please remember that too, because we cannot grow crops there. Why not? Because it's not moist enough, not enough water, it might not be fertile enough, maybe too many rocks, or it might be too steep. It's called marginal land because we cannot grow crops there. What do we use that land for right now? What do we use it for? 2/3 of all agricultural land in the world. What do we use it for right now? Anybody? Grazing, exactly. We are using it to graze ruminant livestock like cattle, sheep, goats. Why? Because what grows here is cellulose. Cellulose is the world's most abundant biomass. That's what grows there, and the only animals that can digest it are ruminants because of their microbial communities inside their guts. Without ruminant livestock, we could not make use of 2/3 of all agricultural land. Please remember that too. The remainder 1/3 of my business card, ladies and gentlemen, is the total amount of arable land. Here we can grow crops for both people and animals. That's how limited we are. And here there are people, largely activists, but also part of the media, who say we need to stop eating animal-sourced foods. We should not have livestock. We should forego the use of animal-sourced foods. We all hear this day in, day out. At least I hear it day in, day out. I don't know how much of that you get. If we were to do that, by the way, half of this arable land would have no fertilizer, all of a sudden. Why? Because half of the world's fertilizers are what we call organic fertilizers, and they come without exceptions from where? Out of some animal's blood. Don't mean to be rude, but that's the way it is. Livestock is critically important to feed the 2050 challenge. It is critically important, not just to people like you and I appreciate the taste and nutrition, but from a resource perspective, it is critically important as well. What are our pathways to reduce emissions in animal agriculture? That's the question I get all the time. I have worked with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization over the last few decades. At first, I was very critical of some earlier reports like Livestock Soul Shadow. Later, I became a committee chairman in some international committees I've worked with them. And I have to say, the work they're doing today is very good, and I will share some of that with you. So first of all, there are people who say we should eat less animal-sourced foods. What is the likelihood for that to happen? Here you see consumption in different parts of the world, consumption of animal-sourced foods. You see in most parts of the world, consumption of animal-sourced foods is going up. It's not going down. Europe is the only place where it's kind of stable. There are people who tell me, particularly in Europe, where I spent quite some time, who say, all we need to do is stop eating meat, dairy, eggs, and that will have a profound impact on our climate, they say. So they've had years now of heavy propaganda against animal source foods, particularly in countries like the United Kingdom or Germany. Let's see what the changes of eating patterns have been like in a place like the United Kingdom. You see here, the top line here is titled meat eaters, but these are really omnivores who eat as part of their diet animal source foods, but also plant-based foods. And down here you see all the others, flexitarians, vegetarians, vegans, pescatarians, and so on. There has not been a sizable change in consumption patterns in countries like the United Kingdom, most other parts of the world. Changing the diet is a pipe dream of some of the activists in changing our impact on climate, in my opinion. But the news is full of it. You see here an article from Bloomberg, eating less meat in the rich world is super important to achieve net zero and so on. Last November, I was in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, and that was the COP28. And going there, I was surprised that the world media was full with articles saying, newspaper articles saying, that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization will at the COP28 say that we need to stop eating animal source foods to stop climate change. I thought I had something wrong with my ears or eyes because I knew that that was not the message that I got when I was in Rome with the FAO, with that very United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. But the news media was full of it. So I gave my talk in Dubai at the COP28, and then after I gave my talk, the FAO gave their talk and released the most powerful international report on this very question of what can we do to minimize the impact of animal source foods on climate. This is the report that came out of the COP28, this United Nations FAO report called Pathways Toward Lower Emissions. And if you take a photo of this QR code, you'll get there to this report. Unfortunately, hardly anybody in agriculture has read this report, when indeed it is so important for agriculture. Why? Because everything that we've been fed over the last decade or so by activists saying that we need to change what we eat to save our planet from climate change is debunked in that report. And it is not confirmed what the media reported prior to COP28 in any way, shape, or form. This slide is kind of convoluted, but I want to show it to you because it's the most important slide from the report. It shows on the left side here the impact global livestock has on climate right now. The second column shows the additional impact livestock globally will have by the year 2050. The third column shows the combined impact from now until 2050 from the global livestock sector on climate. So this is what the FAO says the impact will be of the global livestock sector to the climate if we don't do anything to reduce emissions. It's called business as usual. Here's what the FAO says we need to do. Look to the right side, they say this is where we need to be by 2050 with livestock emissions. This is where we will be if we don't do anything. This is where we should be on the right side here if we use mitigation. The most important things they say we can do to reduce the impact of livestock on climate are productivity increases. That's the sixth column. Followed by breeding. Followed by, what's that one here? I forgot. Animal health, yes. Well, these are all things that we've been doing here forever, right? We have been increasing productivity, we have increased and improved breeding, we have optimized animal health. We have been doing this forever here in this country. But what you also see on this slide, and I really had to giggle about it, if you look at the fourth column here, this is what the media said we should all do to change the impact of food on climate. Look at the fourth column. It's titled Dietary Change. That means all of us becoming vegetarians and vegans. Is that the most effective thing we can do? No, it's the second least effective thing we can do. And all the media reporting on this were not just wrong, they were misleading, and not one of them ran a retraction or correction afterwards. And I will not get tired to highlight that. And you can imagine I'm not everybody's best friend as a result. A few slides on how we are doing in a state like California. If you don't just think total greenhouse gases, but just methane for a second. This pie graph here shows methane in California and the different sources. You see the dairy sector makes up the lion's share of this one gas, methane. And the state has a very ambitious goal to reduce methane by 40%, 40, by the year 2030. Our farmers at first thought there's no way of saying that we can reduce 40% without bankrupting ourselves. But thank God the legislature had a really good idea. What is that good idea? The good idea is to use not the Kane approach of rules and regulations and fines and taxes, like many other parts of the world, but the legislature in California decided to use a voluntary, incentive-based approach, working with farmers and not against them to reduce methane. And make methane reduction something they can take to the market and get money for. Surprise, surprise, the carrot approach works. And that's the reason, ladies and gentlemen, why I have been traveling to 26 countries throughout the world the last 12 months. Because the rest of the world wants to know, why does it work in California to reduce methane by so much? Why does it not work in the rest of the world as well? That's why working with and not against farmers is what gets you the results you want to see. For the dairy sector, it means we need to reduce 7.2 million metric tons. That's an abstract number for you right now, but let's see how we're doing. 7.2 is how much they need to reduce, and two of my colleagues and I have done a report, and we found that they will not achieve 7.2, but the California dairy industry will reduce its methane anywhere between 7.6 to 10.6. Far exceeding what's requested of them. How? Through better productivity, we need relatively fewer cows, and that leads to a range reduction you see under attrition. Then there are alternative new management practices. There are these anaerobic digesters or covered lagoons. They will have a big impact on reducing methane, and feed additives, things that you can feed to cattle to reduce how much methane they belch out. If you add up those numbers, you get to this range in the title. 7.6 to 10.6 is the amount of methane our farmers will reduce. And you might remember this one graph I showed. If you reduce methane, you reduce warming in a major way. Our dairy industry will not just reduce its own carbon footprint, but they will reduce warming. Some activists say, well, that's a bunch of greenwashing. I have news for you, it's not greenwashing, this is physics and chemistry, and you cannot just modulate that at will, it's science. Our dairy sector alone, if you look at this, this used to be an open lagoon where the manure was stored. Now it's oftentimes covered. A covered lagoon traps the biogas underneath, 60% of which is methane. They trap that methane, and methane is really pure energy. They trap that methane, and then they convert it into fuels for vehicles, such as heavy-duty trucks and buses. And that alone has already reduced almost 30% of the total carbon footprint of the dairy sector. They will achieve the full 40% and exceed it. And the Air Resources Board in California and Sacramento has appreciated that. In a meeting that I recently attended, they said that they know at least 6.6 will be achieved without the use of enteric fermentation, so feed additives. They are very bullish that our dairy industry will achieve the goal. Here are a couple of approaches. This is one, feed additives. They will reduce enteric methane, the methane that's belched out. Animal breeding can reduce methane because methane is a heritable trait. The mama cow passes it on to her calf. So you can now identify which animal is a high, which one is a low methane producing animal, and then select your herd according to that parameter. And there are other ways. I don't have the time to go over them, but here are several of them listed. If you're in this area and you want to know more, just take a photo of this slide. The report that two of my colleagues and I, Ernest Cabrera and Sam and I wrote is available. We submitted it to the legislature, to the California Resources Board. We are very proud. We are very proud that we as a university are helping our industry, our farmers, to achieve the world's most aggressive climate goals, without breaking the bank, working with farmers and not against them. So, in summary, consumption is really not what gets us, or changes in consumption is not what gets us to reducing the carbon footprint of our food. Switching from animal source foods to plant source foods, becoming vegan or vegetarian, is not what gets us off the hook. What really helps us reduce emissions is working with our farmers, find best practices, and work together with those farmers and not against them. And that indeed is a way forward. One that's not just effective here in our state, but one that's now a role model approach for the world. From New Zealand to Uruguay, from Finland to Australia. So, something to be proud of. I'm the director of the CLEAR Center at UC Davis. clear.ucdavis.edu is the web address. Much of what I talked about here is explained in the form of explainers, blogs, news stories, YouTubes. I'm on Twitter, I guess they call it X now, as the GHG Guru. If you're on Twitter, please follow me, and I will follow you back. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to entertain any questions if you have any. Thank you. One or two questions, I think. Now let's see if you're shy or not shy. I'm not shy, so just go ahead. Yes? So the question here is, CO2 gets absorbed by plants, very true. What's the relationship between how much humans put out versus how much is taken on by plants? The production is grossly exceeding what plants can take on. In fact, the greatest sink in the world for CO2 are oceans, not plants. But still, the production far outweighs the consumption by any kind of sink, whether it's an ocean or whether it's plants. Far exceeds it. Yes?
Do you see, with like the movement towards like sustainability and these regenerative like terms, that the work that you're doing is going to feed into that?
What was the last part?
Like the work that you're doing currently is going to feed naturally into that, those, you know, kind of
Feed into what?
like sustainability, regenerative.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
So what we do is all about sustainability. And I know many people in agriculture are allergic to the term sustainability. They think that sustainability is a bad thing. Sustainability is not a bad thing. Sustainability is the same thing as stewardship. I don't think anybody here in the room would say stewardship is a bad thing, right? What is stewardship? Stewardship are 5 things. You want to be the best steward of your animals. Keep them healthy, in high welfare. You want to be the best steward of your land, of the soil, the water on your property. That's the environment. You want to be the best steward of the products you produce healthy and nutritious food. You want to be the best steward of the workers who work with you to attract and retain a qualified workforce. And you want to be the best steward of the financial resources you have. These 5 things are the 5 pillars of stewardship, and they are the 5 pillars of sustainability. It's the same thing. In the countryside they call it this, in the cities they call it that. But if your consumers live in cities, then it's not asking too much to just say, okay, I guess sustainability is not that bad. It is in fact your legacy as a farmer. Because if you don't take care of these 5 pillars of stewardship / sustainability, you will not stay in this business. It's part of your business. With that, thank you very much for having me, everybody.
Could a representative from MUC turn the cooling system back on for us, please, while we prepare to wrap up? And if Dean could work your way back this way, please. John?
Thank you, Dr. Mittler, for being here today and sharing your insights with us. Your commitment to advancing agricultural education, research, and spreading fact-based knowledge to audiences worldwide is truly commendable. We look forward to seeing the impact of your continued work. And we have a basket for you today to say thank you. If I could now have Troy Gravatt, the Dean of School of Agriculture, please come up to the podium. He was busy working. We want to present Mr. Gravatt with the proceeds raised from this year's event, which will be used for the Voss Berryville Scholarship Fund.
This is growing once again. It's been slow coming out of COVID, but we are up over last year and appreciate everyone's participation to aid in that effort.
I would also like to say thank you to all those who made this year's event possible. There are many dedicated people and volunteers who work behind the scenes to make sure this event is a success. As I call your name, please stand and remain standing. I ask everyone to please hold your applause until the end. Mr. Troy Gravatt and John Macedo, MJC staff, MJC Ag students, and our local FFA students, the Modesto Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Trish Christensen, and the Chamber staff. We also want to thank the Harvest Luncheon Committee, which is listed on the PowerPoint. And of course, thank you to the Modesto Junior College Agriculture Department for hosting this event. That concludes our program. Please make sure to take the locally grown fruits and nuts on your table. Thank you again to our generous sponsors, to MJC, to Trish, the Modesto Chamber of Commerce, and Dr. Frank Midlander for attending today's event. Thank you.
He is available to take a few questions off here on the side. He has a few minutes, so if you have something you'd really like an opportunity to ask him, you're welcome to do so. He'll be over here. Thank you.